Hello. Welcome back to Affaircare's little series on our basic concepts. We're trying to get through the whole month of September and bring to you the basic concepts in a way to introduce our new program, which will be coming up October 1st. That is 90 days to save your marriage and save you. And our new program is just about the basic things that you can do to build the love in your marriage, to recover that loving feeling, to stop doing the things that hurt each other, to the steps that you can take to end an affair if your spouse is still involved and won't stop, and then the steps that you can take, once your spouse does stop the affair, to recover and reconcile. So we started off with our very first podcast was called Intro, Basic Concepts, and that kind of went into our basic thoughts and some of the terminology that we use for here at Affaircare. And then the first week we went over the love kindlers. Now, here at Affaircare we think of love as a campfire. There are actions that a person can take that would accentuate the feelings of love, that would make the love grow, make the fire hotter, and these we call love kindlers because you can imagine it kindles the fire. In our terminology we would call that a commitment, so we would call the kindlers, it's like a financial commitment, a family commitment, because you're honoring your commitment that you made when you got married. Then there are actions that you can take that would extinguish the fire. These are actions we call them extinguishers because, as you can imagine, they extinguish the fire of love. They put it out. We just spent the rest part of this week going over and finishing the kindlers, which were the actions that, looking at yourself, not what your spouse does to you, but look at yourself. It's, am I an angry attack dog? Am I not providing financially for my family? These are the kinds of things that eventually can tear a marriage apart. So if that is you, I just encourage you to stop doing the thing that's tearing your family apart and start doing the things that would kindle the fire again. So we spent some time going over that. Now today I wanted to start a new part. It's the steps to take in order to end an affair. So to kind of get into the idea about, what are affairs and what happens and everything. Again, I don't want to spend a ton of time, but it's kind of worthwhile to talk about. Usually the loyal spouse will sort of suspect that something is not right. Sometimes people will just, they kind of deny it, right? They don't want to face that there could be that possibility, so they avoid it for a long time. But eventually something will happen that is like they can't avoid it anymore. Something is wrong. Maybe you've noticed that they spend a lot of work. Oh boy, I have to work late. We have to work late, but yet there's no overtime on their paycheck. Maybe you've just noticed that everything that they said they didn't like, all of a sudden they are liking it. They changed their clothing styles. Something has set off this little gut feeling that something's wrong. And usually, honestly, that gut feeling is right. Not always, but I'm just saying, a lot of the time, if you have a sneaking suspicion that something isn't right, it's time to kind of look into it. If you suspect your spouse is having an affair, and that would be emotionally unfaithful or physically unfaithful, even sometimes financially unfaithful if they're hiding things, don't despair. That doesn't mean it's the end of your marriage. In fact, there are a lot of statistics that show that approximately 20% of affairs last 2 months and then they're done. Approximately half of the affairs will last more than a month but less than a year. So, a couple of months and 3 months, 4 months, and it's over. The remaining 30% that are left last more than 1 year. So really the chances are pretty good that it will be less than a year. And I know that sounds like a horrible long time, but in the course of a marriage, which can be up to 70 years long, it's not it's something to consider, that it usually doesn't last that long. Out of affairs, only about 3% result in the affair partners getting married. The vast majority of the time, especially once the affair comes to light, it just disintegrates and falls apart. So don't despair. Just keep that in mind, that even though it seems very dark at the moment, there's really good hope for your marriage if you can hang on and stick it out a little bit. So there are specific steps that you can take that I have reason to believe that when you're suspecting that your spouse is unfaithful, some steps to take in order to, like, each step kind of follows the other one in some logical order, because you want to get to the bottom of it. You want to get to the truth and do the things that will most likely end in your spouse ending their affair and reconciling your marriage. So there's no guarantee that your marriage will recover, but these steps give you the best opportunity to recover after an affair, I'm sorry. So the first step, or the first thing that you can do would be, honestly, the first thing I tell people, this is kind of a pre-step, is that there is no rush. So if you suspect, you don't have to make a decision today. You don't have to decide to act today even to investigate. Just take a moment to stop, settle your gut, make sure you're thinking clearly, and then make your decision when you're not doing a knee-jerk emotional reaction. There's no rush. Take your time. Take several deep breaths. Wait till you can calm down and think. That's kind of a precondition. The first thing that you can really do is gather evidence. Okay, so just to be clear, it's fairly typical for the disloyal spouse, the one who is cheating, to deny that they're having an affair. Even when if you walked in on them and caught them in the act, they would probably jump up, throw their clothing back on, and then say something like, "It's not what you think," or "It's not what it looks like." Yeah, it is. It looks like you're naked with another person, so that's exactly what it is. So, all I'm saying is, if you go to your disloyal spouse and you say to them, "Hey, is something going on? Are you having an affair?" Or what? It's reasonable to expect that if they are having an affair, they're going to lie about it. So, in some ways, the reverse would be true. It's unreasonable to go to your spouse who is actively lying to you, but to cover things up of what they're doing with this other person. It's unreasonable to think, "Oh, they're lying about that, but they're going to tell me the truth," because I don't know why you think that. So the first thing that the first thing I advise to people is, if you have that nagging feeling, that gut feeling that something is not right, this step is not so much to prove to them that they're doing it. They know that they're committing adultery. They know that it's wrong. But really, this is more for you. It's to prove to you the point in your head where it's not you. You're not making a mountain out of a molehill. It's not you. You're not, "Oh, you're crazy. You're just making that up." Or, this is really for you to confirm to yourself that something really is going on and it's not appropriate. Beyond a shadow of a doubt in your mind. Do you see what I mean? So, the first thing you want to do as you're gathering evidence is to keep an open mind. This is a country, here we believe that people are innocent until they're proven guilty. And so I would say you're going to begin to search through some things and try to gather some evidence, and keep an open mind to either proving or disproving what you think may be happening. It's just a theory at this point. So just keep your open mind. In some states, it is illegal to tape someone without their knowledge. So the first thing that you'll want to do, if you're thinking of things like a voice-activated recorder, or having a tape recorder of some sort to kind of catch them in the act, or a video like a nanny cam thing, you're going to want to check your state's laws on electronic surveillance. And I will put a link in the YouTube description and in the blog to the all the states and all their surveillance laws, so that you can just look for yourself, look up your state, and look up what they say. However, in general, I call them, there's the high-tech ways to investigate and the low-tech ways to investigate. The high-tech ways are what most people think of, right? The nanny cams and the voice recorders and stuff. And if you're going to go that route, that's completely, that's your decision. Look up the laws. But as a general rule, the way I always assume it is, some states are no, you have to have one person's consent. Some states are two people consent. Some states are no people consent, but that's pretty rare. Usually it's one or two. And one would be if I'm in the conversation with you and I consent to it, then I don't have to say something out loud to you. That's one person consent. I'm in the conversation talking to you. So if you record yourself talking to your spouse, it's a one-person consent, you don't have to get consent from your spouse because you are a party of the conversation. Does that make sense? A two-party would be if you are conversing with your spouse, you have to get your spouse's permission and your own permission. So both of you, two-part, okay? If you are not a party of the conversation, so let's say you tape the voice-activated recorder in your car, and it's your spouse talking on the phone to the other person, those two are talking, and you're not there at all. So almost every state considers that to be, it's definitely not, it's inadmissible in a court of law, and some even would call that illegal in hacking. So bear all those things in mind as you go about the decision-making process as to how you're going to do this. A lot of times I'll tell people, as it regards to you and your body, and have a tape recorder in your hand and hold it out so they see it and say, I am tape recording our conversation. If you continue to speak with me, that will be considered consent to go ahead and record. If you don't want to be recorded, do not speak to me. That's it. That will work, because then if they do talk to you at all, even if they yell at you, that's okay. They've consented. Okay, so that's one way to go. That's the high-tech way. The low-tech way, actually, to be honest with you, that's my favorite way. The typical evidence that you might look at low-tech would be like you gather up some of your bills, you gather up your bank statements, your credit card statements, and your calendar, and you start like noticing if somebody's calling the home phone a lot, what the numbers are. You start comparing stuff. Like if they were on a business trip Monday and Tuesday to New York, but you have a receipt in your hand that they made from California, you know something's up and they didn't go to New York. If you have a cell phone bill that has the same phone call for 30 minutes or more to the same number 800 times, you know something is up. So low tech is more like actually following the paper trail and trying to put things together. You're going to look at your credit card statements and you're going to see, wait a minute, there's a purchase here for jewelry and I didn't receive no jewelry and he's not wearing a new ring. So that means somebody else got some jewelry. You see what I'm saying? The low tech way is a good way to do it quieter. It usually takes a little bit longer, but you can just gather evidence. Some typical evidence that people also think of is looking at emails, or sometimes they will crack their person's cell phone. Again, those things can be on the verge of hacking, so you've got to be careful with that. If you purchased the computer or you and your spouse used, marital money to purchase the computer, and you both have your passwords sitting in a notebook sitting next, you might have a case for trying to use their, open their password. But if that's not the case, if they bought their own computer, if it's a work computer, if you never ever did share passwords, you don't have the little notebook sitting there with all the, then you might want to consider that could be hacking, so just be careful. But often that's the kind of thing that people will think of. I'm going to look at an email, I'm going to look on their phone. If their phone's left unlocked and you happen to see it, investigate, go ahead. If they're, same thing with their computer, if it's logged in on Facebook, you can read their messages. Because there is the assumption that married couples share things. And that includes, if you have it open and turned on and logged in, your spouse can look, you know what I mean? So that's a little bit different story legally. So I think you get the drift. This particular first one is gathering evidence, keeping an open mind that you may prove the theory or you may prove that it's wrong. Maybe you'll look and you just will say, I don't see any calls, 800 calls to somebody. And the last option you can do for gathering evidence is hire a professional, hire a private investigator. These are people that are usually trained in ways to investigate that will also be evidence for a court of law. So if you, like as an example, you're pretty sure they're having an affair, but it's kind of too much for you to do the actual investigating yourself, and you have the wherewithal, you can hire a PI. They will follow them around, take photos, make notes of who they were with, what kind of actions they witnessed, that kind of, and then that's all admissible in a court of law, and that could be something that you could use if you have a state that allows fault divorce, or if that kind of activity would be an issue in alimony or child support or that kind of thing. So I'm just saying right now, the first thing you can do is gather evidence. Tomorrow we'll be going over the next thing that you would be able to do to stop an affair. The next is, it's actually in a weird way like 3 things that you do kind of like boom, 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 one after the other. So I'm going to put them all together as one video, and we'll be going over that one tomorrow. And the rest of this week and the beginning of next week, we'll be going over the steps to end the affair, and then we'll end the month with the steps to reconcile and the tools and everything like that. So hope you'll continue to join us. I appreciate that you've come. If this is helpful to you, please do share it with your friends, or subscribe on the video or on iTunes or on Stitcher, and tell your friends. And by all means, if you have a question, you can always send me a comment or an email at affaircare@gmail.com. I would love to help you. I'm doing this because I care, and I want to help you save your marriage. So thanks again. I hope to see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.